imagines spending like 20 years of your life, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and just endless sleepless nights to get a PhD.
Oh, yeah. A massive investment.
Right. You finally walk across that stage, you get the diploma, and you feel like you have finally arrived.
You've made it.
Exactly. Only for a philosophical text to just tap you on the shoulder and politely inform you that, well, you haven't actually achieved anything yet. You have merely finished the tutorial.
It's a really tough pill to swallow, especially today. I mean, we live in this information age where we treat the human brain like a hard drive.
Yeah, completely.
There is this pervasive underlying assumption that having a full hard drive, gathering the most data, collecting the most certifications, that is the ultimate goal of human development.
And that assumption is exactly what we are challenging in our deep dive today. So, for everyone listening, we are exploring a translated text by a writer named Shui Feng, and the piece is titled The Three Major Pursuits in Life.
Yeah.
What makes this document so fascinating is that it acts as a very specific, sequential roadmap for human development. It outlines 3 distinct steps to achieving ultimate enlightenment, or, well, as the text describes it, becoming a celestial being or a Buddha.
Yeah, and those 3 steps are knowledge, wisdom, and spirituality.
Okay, let's unpack this, because this framework is going to make you rethink how you are spending your mental energy every single day.
It really does. I mean, the author is essentially forcing us to audit our own lives. We have to look in the mirror and ask if we are actually developing as human beings or if we're just passively stockpiling facts.
Hoarding information.
Right, hoarding information. Because according to Shui Feng's framework, if you stop at simply being educated, you are missing the entire purpose of your existence. You're just stuck at step 1.
Wow. So let's actually look at step 1, right? The text starts at the very bottom of the staircase, which it defines as knowledge. But before anyone can reach these, lofty spiritual heights, they have to lay this groundwork.
And the author has a very rigid definition of what knowledge actually is, focusing really heavily on the material world.
Okay, break that down for us.
So the text defines knowledge simply as the understanding and summary of the physical material world. Like, think about human history.
Okay.
Over thousands of years, as humanity has interacted with the physical environment, we've engaged in all these productive practices. We tried to grow crops. We built shelters.
We tracked the stars to predict the seasons.
Exactly. We discovered physical laws. And through massive amounts of collective trial and error, we gained true insights. So knowledge is really nothing more than the aggregation of those material laws.
It's basically the historical record of our ancestors bumping into things, figuring out how they work, and then writing it down so the next generation doesn't have to, bump into the exact same things.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And that brings us directly to how the text views the purpose of school.
Right.
The author makes a pretty striking point here. They say that the entire function of going to school, from your very first day of kindergarten all the way through a university doctoral program, is just to provide a shortcut to that historical record.
Wait, so if schooling is just a transfer mechanism for past discoveries,
Yeah.
this text is saying that a university isn't necessarily teaching me how to think or how to act.
Not at this level, no.
It's literally just handing me a zip file of what dead people already figured out.
That is the exact argument. You don't have to spend a lifetime figuring out the principles of calculus or the laws of thermodynamics from scratch because someone else already paid that price in time and effort.
So a teacher can just hand you the summary.
Right. In this framework, teachers, experienced workers, farmers, they are all just mediums for passing on this summary. And today, the internet, textbooks, documentaries, even CDs, they're just modern mediums for this exact same transfer of data.
That definitely challenges how we assign value in society because we put so much weight on degrees. But if I'm reading this right, having a PhD doesn't mean you actually have capability.
Nope.
It just means you successfully downloaded the most files. You've avoided primitive ignorance, which is great, but you haven't actually done anything with the files yet.
Exactly. The text explicitly states that knowledge is not a capability. It is merely a prerequisite.
Interesting.
Now, a person with abundant knowledge is still worthy of respect because they've laid the foundation required for civilization to function. In fact, the text notes that the pursuit of knowledge is the primary task in life.
Because without it?
Because a person without it remains unreasonable, hard to educate, and unlikely to achieve anything of substance. But possessing knowledge does not automatically grant you capability.
Okay, but this raises a huge question. If we all have access to the exact same downloaded files, if we can all Google the same facts or read the exact same textbooks, Why are some people out there actively solving massive global problems while others are just like completely paralyzed?
Right.
There has to be an operational layer missing here.
And that operational layer is the second pursuit in life, which the text calls wisdom.
Wisdom, okay.
So if knowledge is the raw data sitting inert on your hard drive, wisdom is the engine that actually runs the programs. The author defines wisdom as the sublimation of knowledge.
Sublimation. Okay,
Mhm.
so in chemistry, that's when a solid turns directly into a gas, fundamentally changing its state.
Exactly.
But how does a human mind actively sublimate a piece of data? Like, what does that process actually look like in real life?
It is the cognitive leap from memorization to application.
Okay.
Sublimation happens when you use critical thinking, trial, error, and judgment to turn that inert data into an active capability. Wisdom is the actual ability to discover, analyze, discern, and judge the essence of things.
So it's not just knowing a fact.
Right. Furthermore, it's the capability to invent and create. Like, it's the difference between knowing that a tomato is biologically a fruit, which is knowledge, and having the wisdom to know you shouldn't put a tomato in a fruit salad.
Yes, the fruit salad rule. Actually, the author has a fantastic grounded analogy for this that just made it click for me.
Oh, the supermarket one.
Yeah, they say, imagine going to the supermarket. You fill your cart with raw flour, cooking oil, raw vegetables, and unmixed seasonings. You bring it all home, you dump it on your kitchen counter, and you just stare at it.
Right.
Does that cure your physical hunger?
I mean, you can stare at raw flour all day long, but it will never nourish you.
Exactly. Buying the groceries is knowledge. You've acquired the raw materials.
Mm-hmm.
But the actual cooking, the capability to combine, heat, and process those raw ingredients into a meal that sustains you, that processing capability is wisdom.
It's the transformation.
Yeah, transformation of the material into something actually useful.
And consider the alternative, which the text outlines with some incredibly blunt claims. It states that a lack of this processing capability, a lack of wisdom, is exactly why a group of monkeys remains monkeys.
Wow. Because they can observe their environment, but they can't sublimate those observations into inventions.
Right. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the author scales that concept up to human society as well. They state that the reason a person, a family, a clan, or even an entire nation remains poor and backward is fundamentally due to a lack of wisdom.
Because without wisdom, you just have a society with raw ingredients rotting on the counter.
Exactly.
And we see this all the time today. You know, people read 100 business books, they listen to countless hours of advice, they gather all this knowledge, but they never actually start the business.
Yeah, they're stuck.
They are completely paralyzed by contradictory information because they lack the wisdom to discern which facts apply to their specific situation.
Paralysis by analysis. It's a perfect modern symptom of high knowledge and low wisdom. A person without wisdom, according to the text, simply doesn't know where to exert their effort.
Right.
They don't know how to use their mind efficiently, and they waste their time. They might hold the knowledge, but they are frozen when it comes to applying it to daily life or actual production.
Which is why it's useless just sitting there.
Yeah, and that is why the text insists the pursuit of wisdom is an urgent task once you have knowledge. Otherwise, the knowledge is entirely useless. Wisdom is the domain of scientists, engineers, successful business managers, and political leaders, people who take facts and solve complex, real-world problems.
Okay, so let's say you've done it. You went to the supermarket, you gathered the ingredients, you learned how to cook, and now you are a Michelin star chef.
You've arrived.
You have successfully sublimated knowledge into wisdom. You're a brilliant engineer or a wealthy CEO. You are rich and successful. According to society, you've won the game. But according to this text, you're still not at the finish line.
Not even close.
Yeah.
Because there is a natural, unavoidable limit to wisdom.
Which is?
The text points out that while wisdom can make your life full, prosperous, and materially successful, it explicitly cannot solve a person's ultimate worries.
Ultimate worries.
Yeah, wisdom can cure your physical hunger, it can build a bridge, it can cure a disease, but it cannot cure existential dread. It cannot explain the purpose of life or what happens after we die.
Which naturally forces us to look for something beyond the material world. And that brings us to the ultimate goal, the third pursuit, spirituality.
Exactly. Just as wisdom is the sublimation of knowledge, spirituality is the sublimation of wisdom.
Okay.
The text defines spirituality as the ability to communicate with the non-material world. It is only at this highest level that a person gains the ability to clearly discern between truth, goodness, beauty, and love versus falsehood, evil, ugliness, and hatred.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, and we have to pause, because the author drops a massive philosophical bomb here that I think is going to be really hard for a lot of modern listeners to swallow.
Oh, definitely.
The text claims that knowledge and wisdom are completely unrelated to morality. To possess true morality, you must achieve spirituality.
It is a staggering assertion. I mean, we are deeply conditioned in our society to equate being highly educated or highly capable with being a good person.
Right. And I have to push back on this on behalf of anyone listening. Are they seriously arguing that an atheist doctor, someone who has used immense knowledge and profound wisdom to cure cancer and save thousands of lives, has zero morality just because they don't communicate with the non-material world?
It sounds harsh.
Right. How does the author justify stripping morality away from someone doing objectively good things?
Well, it requires looking at how the author defines morality versus social utility.
Okay, explain that.
In this framework, the doctor curing cancer is operating at the absolute peak of wisdom. They're providing immense social utility, alleviating physical suffering, and applying material laws perfectly. And the text highly respects this. Remember, wisdom makes life prosperous. However, the author separates material utility from universal, non-material truth. To the author, true morality isn't just about doing helpful things in the physical world. It is about possessing an unwavering compass that aligns with the fundamental non-material nature of the universe.
So it's about alignment, not just action.
Exactly. Without spirituality, a person might do good deeds today, but they lack the deeper discernment to navigate ultimate spiritual truths. They are still bound by material limitations.
So wisdom can make you helpful, but only spirituality connects you to the true essence of goodness. It's a really provocative distinction.
It is.
To help us understand what that peak level of spirituality actually looks like, the text categorizes various historical and spiritual figures into a specific hierarchy. And just as a quick reminder for you listening, we're simply neutrally detailing the author's specific framework here to understand their philosophy.
Right. We aren't endorsing this hierarchy or taking sides, just relaying how the source material organizes these figures.
Exactly. So how does the author break this down?
Well, the author breaks spiritual attainment down into distinct tiers. First, there are the inheritors of spirituality.
Inheritors. Okay, who goes there?
The text groups monks, priests, Taoists, imams, and masters into this category. Their role is to carry existing spiritual traditions forward.
Got it.
Then, one step above them are the pioneers of spirituality. In this category, the author lists specific figures like Osho, Oren, Seth, Zhang Hongbao, and Li Hongji.
Okay. And who sits above the pioneers?
Above them are the navigators of spirituality. The text places historical spiritual giants here: Laozi, Muhammad, Shakyamuni, and Jesus.
Wow. Okay.
And finally, above all of them, the ultimate source of spirituality, according to this specific framework, is what the text calls the Tao of the greatest creator.
Looking at that progression from hoarding raw facts at the bottom to applying them in the middle to finally reaching this ethereal level of spiritual and moral clarity at the top, it immediately makes me look for a shortcut.
Right, human nature.
Yeah. I mean, if the ultimate goal is spirituality and morality, why bother with the supermarket of knowledge at all? Can I just skip the first two steps and jump straight to the top of the staircase?
It is the most natural question to ask. If the material world isn't the final destination, why waste decades studying its laws?
Exactly.
But the text shuts that down immediately. It argues that if you lack foundational knowledge and the processing power of wisdom, opening the door to genuine spirituality is impossible.
Because you can't supplement something if the raw material isn't there to begin with.
Exactly that. If you try to jump straight to spirituality without a foundation, the text argues that it devolves into mere superstition.
Oh, superstition.
Yeah. You might grasp tiny fragments of spiritual concepts, but you remain fundamentally clueless about how it all connects. You just won't know the next step to take.
So it's just guesswork.
Right. Concepts like celestials, Buddhas, or the afterlife just become this illusory longing. Because you don't have the discerning capability of wisdom to anchor your thoughts, you might even start doubting the reality of the spiritual world altogether.
You cannot just wish your way to enlightenment. You have to build the ladder rung by rung.
You really do.
But hold on. That creates a massive contradiction in the text.
How so?
Well, if you absolutely must have formal knowledge and wisdom to avoid falling into superstition, does that mean someone who never had the chance to go to school is locked out of heaven? Does that mean an illiterate farmer can never achieve enlightenment while a university professor has a head start?
That's a huge issue,
That
yeah.
feels incredibly elitist for a spiritual framework.
It is a critical flaw if left unaddressed, but the author actually anticipates this exact critique.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, there is a plot twist in the framework. What's fascinating here is, the text asks, is there a path to directly awaken your spiritual awareness without schooling, without engaging in complex social practice, without inventing things, or even without going to a temple and listening to masters?
And the text provides a loophole.
It does. There are exceptions. There are direct paths to the divine that bypass the structures of human society entirely.
Let's hear them.
The author outlines two specific direct paths. The first is what they call reading the celestial book, and they clarify that this means reading books without words.
Books without words. I love that imagery.
Yeah, it means reading nature itself, reading the heavens, the earth, the cycle of life, and society at large.
Okay, so observation.
Right. The concept here is that a person can understand profound divine revelations directly from observing natural phenomena. By watching the universe in its raw, unmediated form, a person can directly communicate with the greatest creator, completely bypassing the need for human accumulated knowledge.
It's the difference between spending 4 years reading botany textbooks versus sitting quietly in a forest and observing the life cycle of a single tree until you intuitively grasp the fundamental truth of impermanence and life.
That's a perfect way to look at it.
You are cutting out the human middleman and going straight to the source code.
Exactly. Now, the second direct path the text offers is based on what it calls a predestined affinity.
Predestined affinity.
Okay, this relies on the idea of having a pre-existing, perhaps cosmic connection with celestials or Buddhas. If a person possesses this affinity, they might encounter these beings and be directly enlightened and guided by them.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it is a form of divine intervention that supersedes the normal step-by-step process.
So if you meet either of these conditions, reading the wordless book of nature or having a predestined cosmic affinity, even someone without a single day of formal schooling can attain spirituality.
Yeah.
They can achieve the qualities of a celestial being. It democratizes the ultimate goal, proving that enlightenment isn't just a VIP club reserved for people with PhDs and high-paying jobs.
The text is very careful to ensure the highest pursuit remains open to anyone, and the author goes a step further, offering specific advice on how to accelerate the spiritual journey for anyone, regardless of which path they are on.
What's the practical advice for speeding this up? Like, is there a life hack?
It centers entirely on intentional focus. The text suggests frequently contemplating the ultimate goal of life.
Okay.
Just the sheer act of holding that existential question in your mind, refusing to let the noise of daily life drown it out, makes a person more likely to attain enlightenment. Furthermore, the text mentions that those who often wander in Lifechanyuan will accelerate their steps towards spirituality.
We should clarify what that means, actually, because Lifechanyuan is a specific term in this author's philosophy.
Good point, yeah.
It's essentially described as a conceptual spiritual space or a mindset. It's an idealized state of living or a philosophical community where one contemplates these ultimate truths and aligns themselves with the greatest creator, away from the mundane distractions of the purely material world.
Exactly.
So by mentally or philosophically inhabiting that space, you speed up your own sublimation.
It brings everything back to intention, whether you are climbing the stairs sequentially through school and career or taking the direct path through nature. The speed of your progress depends entirely on where you focus your mind.
So what does this all mean? We have covered a massive philosophical arc today. We started at the supermarket, gathering the raw ingredients of knowledge passed down by our predecessors.
Right.
Then we moved into the kitchen, using the engine of wisdom to process, analyze, and cook those ingredients into actual capabilities. And finally, we looked at the ultimate human pursuit, nourishing the soul by sublimating that wisdom into spirituality, which this text argues is the only true source of universal morality and connection to the non-material world.
This entire framework forces a necessary self-evaluation. It asks you to look at your daily habits. Are you spending all your time just hoarding raw materials?
Any of us are.
Are you endlessly scrolling feeds, reading articles, and listening to audiobooks without ever pausing to process that data into actual capability?
Right.
And even if you are processing it, even if you are successful, capable, and wise, are you using that capability to find a true moral and spiritual compass? Or are you just perpetually feeding your physical hunger while ignoring your ultimate worries?
And that leads us to a final lingering thought for you to explore on your own. We live in a society that aggressively rewards the accumulation of knowledge, and it highly monetizes wisdom. We pay absolute fortunes to the smartest people who can invent the best algorithms,
Mhm.
optimize the best supply chains, or build the biggest companies.
We do.
But if, as this text boldly claims, neither knowledge nor wisdom has any underlying connection to actual universal morality, is our modern world accidentally designing itself to be spiritually empty?
It's a chilling thought.
We are building an entire global society run by people who have mastered step 2 of the staircase, while completely ignoring step 3. So where are you currently standing on these 3 steps? And more importantly, what is your plan for taking the next one?